Yes, if you are a small business owner, you know that running your own business can be all-consuming. Success often means late hours and personal sacrifice in hopes of achieving your long-term goals for greater prosperity and success. But our next guest says you don't need to sacrifice your family and your personal life to be successful. He's actually helped countless people build successful businesses that do not interfere with their personal lives and actually can enhance them. So please welcome the author of Small Business, Big Life, Louis Barajas. Come on out, Louis.
Hey, how are you?
Wonderful to have you at the summit today. Have a seat.
Thank you.
I have so many things to talk to you about. This is one of my favorite topics, actually, as a mom of 2 children and a small business owner and a very busy, corraler of animals that we adopted our house and everything. I know that having this balance is really important. But before we get to that, let's start with your story and your father. Your father was a business owner, and you struggled.
Well, my dad was an immigrant who came to the United States, worked 3 jobs, trying to support a family, a wife and 3 kids. And when my dad was, when I was 11 years old, my dad said, "Son, I need your help." He didn't speak English. He said, "I'm going to start a business. You're the oldest. I was 11 years old. Help me out with a business." To make a quick story short, he runs a business. He's just working really hard, still not making enough money. We get audited by the IRS. IRS shows up and says, "You haven't filed a business tax return." My dad had to drive me. I was born and raised in East Los Angeles, and there is no bookstore there, not to this day. He had to drive me like 15 miles to go buy a book on how to prepare your taxes. Guess who read it at 13? Now, I thought every kid was doing their parents' tax return at 13 years old. Did it, filed it, got audited. A couple years later, we won the audit. But what I realized we started a business out of necessity, and most business people out there really start businesses out of necessity because they're just not earning enough.
Now, we should tell people, too, that we're going to take Spanish questions and emails today.
Absolutely.
So if you're out there and you're Spanish speaking, please feel free to send in an email or ask a question in Spanish, and we'll take it today.
Yeah.
So, Louis, you really believe that the true purpose of any business, I should say, is really to give life, not wealth.
The purpose of a business is to give you more life. Why do people start businesses? They want more income, they want more time. What happens? Let's talk about the statistic, the startling statistics, right? They always talk about 8 out of 10 businesses fail within the first 5 years. The average divorce rate amongst Americans mostly is about 50%. Among entrepreneurs, it's over 70%. We'll take a look at business owners. I always talk about they're overworked, overwhelmed, and underpaid. And what they get in, they don't understand what they're getting into, and if the complexity is just overwhelming for them. So my goal is, what if we do a different paradigm? What if we think about this differently, right?
And so how do we think about it differently? Because as a small business owner, people say you have to live, eat, and breathe it to make it successful.
Right. Well, the perfect, right now, the current business paradigm is you're out of control. What do? Do a business plan. You haven't done a business plan, build a business plan. I said, no. What you need to do, we need to basically reconstruct your business and focus on a life plan, what I call the life blueprint. That's the very first thing. What's important to you? Your business should support a quality life, not the other way around. So we want to start out with a life blueprint. Focus on your values, your roles, key relationships, people that are important to you. Have that business support that life.
So do you write it down? Do you say, okay, number 1 is my spouse, number 2, my children, or...
It's looking things with a different perspective. It's really understanding that in life, somebody once said, "I've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. No one's going to take anything with them." And most business owners, what they do is they realize when they end up focusing just on the money, just on the business, they end up lonely, they end up sad. Basically, there's nothing in their heart left. And so what I'm trying to tell people, look, you can do it another way, but the problem is we have to change what we're focusing on, and that's not just on the money, on your passion and your purpose.
All right, you talk about something called the ceiling of complexity. What is that?
Ceiling of complexity is just when, a business owner who basically starts a business because they know how to do a specific service or build a specific product, don't realize that a business requires focus on finance, focus on administration, focus on technology, and they get overwhelmed. Now, what happens is the average American, what they do is they have this rugged individualist kind of mindset. If I work harder, work more hours, what happens? I'll just break through this, and they end up getting burnt out. And so, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We're saying, look, once you reach the ceiling of complexity, the ceiling of overwhelm, and you can't get through, it's not working harder. You're going to burn out. We need to take a step back and look at a bigger picture of how we're going to get to build a quality life.
So how do we do that? Do we bring in other people to consult with us? Or, I mean, if you are overwhelmed, which is so easy to feel as a small business owner, because lots of times you're doing the accounting yourselves, the payroll, the marketing, et cetera. We've talked about that for the last couple of days. So how do you take a step back
and
reevaluate?
Take a step back and say, look, what's really important in my life? When it's all said and done, when I'm 6 feet under, what's really going to be the most important thing? Usually it's spending time with your family. So how am I going to do this? Take a look at it. And what I do is I don't build a business plan, because most people build business or do business plans to get financing. What I do is I build business blueprints. It basically breaks out, and I have it in my book, it breaks you down all the tasks and all the functions and all the systems that you have to build that require a business. Now, what I want the people to do is focus on their strengths and delegate, manage, or eliminate their weaknesses. Outsource, resource, find the right people. That's what we're trying to do. Get them to really focus on what's important and what they really enjoy.
You see a lot of businesses, small businesses in particular, leave themselves vulnerable. How do they do that?
Well, they leave themselves vulnerable because what happens is that they just don't focus on the right things. They don't build a proper foundation. Most business owners really are not business owners. What they are, they're people who've created jobs for themselves, and they focus on their specific product or their specific service. I always say that their business is their business, and so because they haven't focused, like my father. My father, you know, he was doing his ornamental iron business, but we didn't focus on getting the taxes done, doing the bookkeeping, setting up the system, technology, none of that. So there was a time that was a very critical stage, and you have to really focus on your entire business, not just what you do and how you do it. We want to have people go from creating jobs for themselves to really becoming business owners.
Right, but your father, he was in a situation where he just didn't know he had to file taxes. I mean, this was a problem coming into a new country and trying to figure out the system.
Well, most people, believe it or not, have trouble figuring out the system. I'm working with I'm working with consultants who are earning 6 figures. Due to this recession, a lot of people are losing their jobs, and they're becoming basically entrepreneurs out of necessity, just like my father was, but from a different viewpoint, right? They've already got a specific knowledge. They're college-educated people. They still have no lack of how to manage their finances, how to grow the business, how to bring in technology. And it is until something critical happens that they become aware. My goal is, how do I let people become conscious of all the aspects of running a business so they avoid all that pain?
All right, you have 4 cornerstones to running a business called TRACK. That's the acronym. We are going to allow this acronym here. We don't allow very many on the Small Business Summit.
Okay.
But TRAC. And we're going to start with what T stands for.
Okay, you stay on track. TRAC stands for the truth, right? All progress starts by telling the truth. You need to understand where you're at. You got to take a look at whether you have to understand, are you just creating a product or a service? Where are you really at? Where are you vulnerable, as you just mentioned earlier? Responsibility. No one else is going to do it for you. No one's going to come and save you. You know, not the SBA, not a consultant. You have to really become personally responsible. Awareness. Awareness is just being aware of all the aspects that it takes to really run a business, not just create a job for yourself. And the last part, which is really the most important part, is courage. Courage is action plus knowledge plus faith. What happens, there are a lot of people out there who want to start businesses, but you know what, and they read the books, they do the homework, they do business plans, and they never jump in. They need courage and they need faith. They need to just go out and do it. But again, it's just not blindly do it. It's having that knowledge and then taking the action. And again, but you have to have a little bit of faith as well.
All right, so it's truth, responsibility, awareness, and courage.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to awareness. You know, can we honestly evaluate our weaknesses? Or are we good at doing that as business people? I mean, does it help to have somebody outside the business to say, look, you're not doing a great job here in this area. You're terrible at marketing.
Absolutely. And the way we say, no one's a prophet in their hometown as well. Nobody's a prophet in their home. We all have blind spots. And the problem is that most business owners aren't even aware that they're really just creating jobs for themselves. I think we had Stephen Rogers earlier who mentioned that people start lifestyle companies. What we need to do is we need to really focus on what we do best and how we manage, delegate our weaknesses. But the problem is, as I think as Socrates or Dr. Phil once said, right, you can't change what you don't acknowledge. And if you don't know what's going on, how are you going to make any changes in your business?
All right, and responsibility, I want to go back to that. You have to be responsible for the successes and the failures of your business.
Personal responsibility. We can't have an entitlement attitude like somebody's going to come and save us. We can just file bankruptcy. Personal responsibility is what actually gets you through the hard times, to the perseverance, the determination. You have to understand that it's all about you. You start with the company. If the company's not doing well and you're complaining that it's disorganized, I guarantee you, you're disorganized. If you're complaining that the company lacks cash flow management, trust me, I know that you lack cash flow management. So it's all about you.
All right. You have 5 steps that you want to lay out for building your business. Let's start at the top.
Okay.
Number 1.
Number 1, you build your life blueprint first.
Okay.
Not a business plan, you build a life blueprint first.
What's important to you?
Okay, what's important to you, and how do you want this business that you're going to build to support the quality of life that you ultimately want?
So if you're a person who likes flexible time and time
You're a
to...
single mom, you want to spend time with your kids, and you want to be home at least at 5 o'clock.
Actually, I'm not a single mom.
Not you, I'm just saying
Okay.
if somebody who's listening to a single mom and wants to come home, or a dad that wants to come home and have dinner every night with their kids, how do you build a business that's going to be able to support that? You know, I don't work on the weekends, and one of the things, family is really important to me. My wife is very important to me. How do I make sure I actually take my business and build it to support that quality of life? That's the first one. The second one is vision. Vision is really all about leadership, right? That's the second is vision. You got to always, all the really knowledgeable people and all the writers and consultants always say, begin with the end in mind. Visualize your business that it's going to be when it's completed. How big is it going to be? How do you want your people dressed? You know, what type of clients? What's your ideal client profile? What is your business going to look like when it's finally said and done? That's the second one.
When you're up and running and everything's going well.
Right.
What will it look like?
Right. The third thing is you want to build what's called a business blueprint. Now, not a business plan. Business blueprint is great when you're starting out. The business blueprint is actually breaking down your whole company in major divisions, the functions, and the system that are going to require. Imagine you're taking a car apart and you're going to put it together. There's a lot of tools that you need to put together. You need to understand all the areas of general administration, technology, finance, marketing, sales, all these areas. That's a business blueprint that allows you to really run this business so you can focus on your strengths and delegate or manage your weaknesses.
All right, number 4 is start your business systems. We have about a minute left.
Create your business systems. The business systems are the ones that are going to create your freedom to have that quality of life. And the last thing is build your dream team. The bigger the dream, the better the team that you need. You really need to focus on the people that are working for you. You got to build that circle of support. That's really important.
Do you have any advice for people who are building a business and they're becoming successful, but their family is suffering as a result?
Yeah, take things in perspective. What I want you to do is, somebody once said, take a look do the rocking chair test. Think about, your own funeral and somebody talking about you and what's really important. I guarantee you it's not going to be about the money you had, the business you built. It's going to be about the quality relationships you left on this earth and the people that you spent the time with.
Right on. I couldn't agree more. Louis, thank you. That is incredibly great advice, and thank you for sharing your philosophy with us today.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, for more information on Louis or any of our other guests today, all you have to do is visit this website, www.sbsummit.com/guests.